I mean, it was a quite a strange day out there, I think, for everybody. You know, Budapest is an amazing track to drive, but they've resurfaced half of the track. Super bumpy, a lot of it's breaking up around the last couple of corners, which is making it quite strange to drive on. Our single lap didn't look great. The long run looked more competitive, but yeah, what we, I guess, potentially feared with Ferrari seemed to be the case. You know, they look very, very strong.
George Russell just said the words every Mercedes fan didn't want to hear. Not about a crash, not about a penalty, about something way scarier Ferrari might already have this weekend won before it even starts. And buried in the same press conference, a second story that's even bigger. Whispers that Mercedes could be quietly building their championship future around a 19-year-old rookie, and it's not Russell.
What's going on? I don't know.
Mi történik? Nem is tudom. Nem találom a szavakat.
Stick around, because by the end of this video you'll understand exactly what Russell said, what he didn't say, and why this Hungarian Grand Prix weekend just got a lot more interesting. Let's set the scene. Hungaroring Friday practice. Everyone in the paddock had been quietly saying the same thing for weeks. If there's one track on the calendar built for Ferrari's FF26, it's this one. Tight, twisty, low-speed corners. Traction out of every exit, exactly the car's strong suit. Mercedes knew it was coming. And Friday? It came true. Hard. Charles Leclerc topped FP1 by nearly a full second. Then in FP2, Ferrari didn't just lead, they locked out the top two, with Lewis Hamilton fastest and Leclerc right behind him. Meanwhile, Russell was 5th, 9/10 off the pace, and his teammate Kimi Antonelli was down in 13th after a chaotic session. A red flag from Franco Colapinto's crash wrecked his first flying lap, then a lockup ruined his second. Here's the line that's blowing up online. Russell, asked to sum up the day, didn't sugarcoat it. What we potentially feared with Ferrari seemed to be the case. They look very, very strong. And he didn't stop there. He added that Ferrari are, in his words, a good step ahead of everyone right now. That's about as blunt as a driver gets on a Friday. Worth remembering why this track carries so much weight. Ferrari's SF26 built its reputation earlier this season as the car to beat on slow and medium speed corners, so much so that before Monaco, people called it the runaway favorite there. That didn't actually happen. Instead, Ferrari's 2 wins this year came at Barcelona and Silverstone, tracks that were supposed to suit them less. So there's history here of the hype not quite matching the results. That's why Friday mattered. The Hungaroring is the textbook Ferrari track, and this time the pace actually matched the reputation. Team principal Frederick Vasseur still sounded cautious though, reminding everyone that Friday form doesn't win poles or races. Now here's the part a lot of coverage is glossing over, and it actually makes the story more interesting, not less. Half the Hungaroring has been resurfaced. Russell described it as super bumpy, with the tarmac literally breaking up around the final couple of corners. Add gusty, shifting wind, and you've got a track that's brutally hard to read on day one. Russell wasn't the only one complaining. Multiple drivers reported snap oversteer on the low-grip surface, and Colapinto's heavy practice crash was a direct result of it. So is this purely a car problem or partly a track problem? Russell himself hedged. He said his single lap pace looked bad, but the long run pace looked more competitive. Translation: Friday might be worse than race day actually turns out to be. Mercedes' own deputy team principal Bradley Lord doubled down on that afterward, insisting the team can still fight for pole. So dominant Ferrari weekend or messy Friday session on a track nobody's really figured out yet. We'll know a lot more come qualifying. There's also a technical wrinkle worth understanding. Russell revealed he'd been dealing with a power unit calibration issue for several races, numbers on the dashboard that weren't quite reading correctly, affecting how the engine deployed power across a lap. That problem was directly linked to his lap 1 crash with Hamilton at Spa, and it also showed up at Silverstone. Mercedes says the fix has now been identified. Here's the catch though. Russell pointed out that Hungaroring is a low deployment track, so even if the exact same issue had resurfaced, its impact would have been a fraction of what it was at Spa. This weekend was never going to properly test whether the fix works. What it is testing, in Russell's words, is the rear tire's huge traction demands out of every corner. hammering the rear axle lap after lap, a completely different challenge than the straight line issues that hurt him before. Now let's get into the part of this story people are really talking about, because it's not actually something Russell said, it's something being said about him. Quick recap of where the championship stands. Kimi Antonelli, Russell's own teammate, has been the revelation of the season. 6 wins, and heading into Hungary he holds a 50-point lead over Russell after Russell's retirement in Belgium. The rookie Russell was mentoring last year is now the one setting the pace. That's led to a fair question in the paddock. At what point does Mercedes start favoring Antonelli in the title fight? And on the reliability issues that have hit Russell this year, including the power unit calibration problem that contributed to his Spa crash, Petressa was clear that he sees this as a symptom of how brutally complex the new engine regulations are, not favoritism. His words, "I think they play fair." So no, Russell hasn't exposed his own team. What's actually happening is pundits publicly weighing a question Mercedes hasn't had to answer yet, because so far nobody outside the team has been close enough to force it. There's a human layer here too. This time last year, Russell was the senior driver mentoring a teenage rookie. Now that rookie is the championship leader. And Russell has admitted he spent parts of this season trying to figure out how a 19-year-old keeps finding pace he can't. Zoom out for a second and look at Russell's season. This is the same driver who opened 2026 with a dominant pole to win in Melbourne, looking every bit like a man about to finally win his first title after grinding through the Williams years. He was even trading barbs with Max Verstappen back then, brushing off Verstappen's criticism of the new regulations as sour grapes from a driver who wasn't winning. Fast forward to now, and Russell has spent the last few races fighting power unit calibration gremlins that he says were quietly costing him lap time problems he says are now understood and fixable. He's also openly admitted it's been a huge load off his mind to learn his struggles weren't down to his own driving after all. Put all of that together with a dominant Ferrari on a track built for them, and you can see why Friday in Budapest felt like a gut check moment for Mercedes' championship year. Mercedes isn't panicking publicly either. Deputy Team Principal Bradley Lord pushed back on the idea that certain tracks simply belong to certain teams, insisting Mercedes has been competitive everywhere and in the pole fight at nearly every race. Whether that holds up on a bumpy, freshly resurfaced track with shifting wind is what Saturday will answer. Qualifying tells us how much of Friday was real, and how much was bumpy track and gusty wind. Drop your prediction below. Does Ferrari convert this into pole, or does Mercedes bounce back like they've insisted all year? Subscribe for the qualifying breakdown the second it drops.